I want to share with you one of my earliest student affairs experiences. I hope from this story we're able to connect, learn, and remember to care for the well-being of ourselves and those around us. I went to The Ohio State University for my master's in higher education and student affairs, where I learned about the growth and development of our students. Previously, before I went back to school, I worked a few years drawing blood from donors and driving a 40-foot bus with my Class B license. To all those people who say that you have to go to grad school immediately, or you're going to forget how to write, I am a success story. Although I did get a terrible neck cramp after reading my first grad school book for 4 hours nonstop. So while I was mastering full-time, I was also working part-time in the Multicultural Center, where I facilitated intergroup dialogues on race, ethnicity, and gender, as well as supervised student staff. This created a very stressful schedule of going to class, working, preparing lesson plans, and then going home and reading some more. So one weekend, I was laying on the floor of my apartment reading one of my books when I felt a slight pain in my left side. Naturally, with my amazing problem-solving skills, I alleviated this pain by simply rolling over onto my back. Problem solved. However, over the next few months, I started to grow a round yet firm belly. My initial thought was poor diet, lack of exercise equals weight gain. I never gained weight before, and so I just convinced myself and everyone around me that this is just how I looked when I gained weight. Unfortunately, one of my students missed the memo and asked when I was due. I was fairly certain I was not pregnant. So I did the next logical thing and started exercising by running and doing sit-ups. But the strange thing was, as much as I was exercising, the belly continued to grow, but I wasn't gaining or losing any weight. So then I started to question myself. Could I be pregnant? My nurse friend did say that you could still have your periods when you're pregnant. So what did I do? I pushed all those thoughts aside and just started wearing larger t-shirts and drinking Slim Fast. So one day I was working in the office and I became suddenly ravenous. I ran across the street to the Subway sandwich and brought back a footlong. But after taking one bite, I felt immediately full, like the food was stuck in my throat. So I pushed my sandwich aside. One of my student staff noticed this, and he said, "Casey, I think you might have an eating disorder." Maybe I did have an eating disorder. I was more self-conscious about my body image, and I wasn't eating as much as I used to. So what did I do? I ignored it. It wasn't until I went home for a wedding, and my partner pulled me aside. And he said, I understand that you're gaining weight while you're at grad school, but I find it so odd that as your belly continues to grow, the bones in your chest are becoming more and more visible. So I finally went to the doctors, to the gynecologist, naturally, and I told them exactly what I already predicted, that this belly was because of poor diet and not enough exercise. The nurse agreed, and she said, "Please undress, and here's a sheet of paper to cover myself." But as I covered myself, the paper balanced perfectly horizontal on my protruding belly. So you can imagine when the nurse returned back to my room with a face of horror, she circled my table and she asked, number one, "Are you pregnant?" "Nope." And number two, "How long have you been growing this?" Let's see, about 9 months. I was then rushed into a series of emergency blood tests, CT scans, and ultrasounds. All I could find out was that there was a large growth in my abdomen. So while I was waiting for all my appointments, I had to find out what was going on. So I turned to WebMD. WebMD taught me that I had an ovarian cyst. Now, apparently, all women get ovarian cysts. They grow on your ovary, they pop, they hurt, your body cleans it up, no problem. So, at my next doctor's appointment, I went in and showed off my newfound knowledge. I also self-diagnosed and said, I probably have like a 5-centimeter cyst just chilling there. It'll be an outpatient surgery, no problem. My doctor shook his head, and he said, actually, after pasting all of your ultrasound images together, you have about a 23-centimeter cyst. How big is that, you ask? The size of a basketball. So after coming out of shock, I heard him saying something about needing immediate surgery and the different ways to remove this cyst. And I said, "Pump the brakes, doc." "Hello, I'm Casey, responsible grad school student. I have many finals and a lot of work to finish, so let's push this back to like winter break." He said he was so sorry, but this could not wait. And then he asked me if I had any family for this major surgery. family? Of course not. I was an independent woman here for grad school. And I already decided I wasn't going to, number one, tell my parents. Number two, they're not going to fly out to the Midwest. And number three, what would they do if things went south and they didn't have their favorite child anymore? But then this led to many more questions. What if they took out my ovary? Would I still be able to have kids? Did I even want kids? What if it was malignant? What if I died in surgery? Running through all these different outcomes, I became more and more upset. And I even thought, maybe I should just break up with my partner so then he doesn't have to suffer all these consequences. But then I thought, why was I thinking this at all? Was I trying to show off that I was a strong person and can do this all by myself? Or was I trying to hide it like another bad dream? Cue ugly cry. Oh, and I was still in my doctor's office. So as I was gathering my things, wiping all the tears away, my doctor recommended that I probably should stop doing sit-ups so then I don't pop that thing in my abdomen. That'd be a horrible mess. Thanks, doc. So I returned to my car and had another session of crying, and then I muscled up the courage to call my partner. Went over all of my concerns, and we even came up with a game plan. So he would come out for my before and during surgery, and then tag team with my grad school and friends on the East Coast for post-surgery recovery. And then it happened. I woke up from surgery with my hand resting on what seemed to be a concave dip where my protruding belly used to be. I was told that I wasn't able to eat for the last few months because the cyst had grown so large it pushed all of my organs into my chest cavity, thus smashing my stomach. The residents who were shadowing my surgeon that day said they were so excited because they've never seen anything like this before, and that my doctor had removed 7 liters of fluid from this cyst. How much is that? 3.5 of those 2-liter soda bottles? Yes, and then I had to ask the most important question. What did the contents of that fluid look like? One of the residents kind of thought. He said it looked dark and frothy, like Guinness. Yes, Guinness. So I share this story to not just traumatize you about beer, but also to share the stories that highlighted my lessons learned. Number one, listen to the body and don't make up excuses. I ignored all of the obvious signs which led to my bigger problem. Soon after my surgery, one of my friends shared with me that he had some pain in his abdomen. I said, you gotta go to the doctor right now. Turned out, he had appendicitis. My second lesson is, look at the bigger picture. I couldn't possibly be of any help to anybody at work or in school if I myself was not well. I was recently in a car collision, and when discussing this with my friend, I was deciding whether I should go to the doctor or go to work because we're so short-staffed. My friend reminded me of the bigger picture, and I went to go see the doctor. The last lesson learned was that support was key. My family, partner, and friends were amazing through this entire experience. So I share this because I think that there's something so important about maintaining our relationships, even when we get so busy, because in times when we truly feel alone, we're not as hesitant to reach out. I ride the bus to work, and now I make it a habit to call at least one person a day to check in on how they're doing. As lifelong learners, we must support and maintain the well-being of ourselves. One of my students said it best, you gotta look out for number one. Thank you.